Hi everyone, my name is Lucinda and I am the CEO and founder of Popertee. And just to give you a bit of context of what Popertee is a platform that connects brands with vacant spaces for short-term retail and marketing campaigns using data. So we were set up 2.5 years ago. And the reason that I'm on the stage here is not that I have years and years of experience, nor do I claim to know everything about startups, but we won the startup competition this time last year at Tech Connect, and the organisers very kindly asked me to talk at this. So I was thinking about what to talk about, and I thought the most relevant information might be some tips along the last 2.5 years since setting up. So just to give you a bit of background, I have a corporate background. I worked with Paddy Power for 4.5 years across product and marketing roles. And I always wanted to set up my own business from an early age. So from the likes of bringing dog coats in from China to actually sort of trading horses and all this kind of stuff. And my parents always said to me, learn from corporates. So they sort of held me back from setting up at an early stage. And I think that was really, really good advice. Near the end stages of Paddy Power, I interviewed for Airbnb for country manager. And as part of that research, I really liked their shared economy model. So I thought that might be a really interesting model for a business. And that's how Popertee was born. So Popertee was born as almost like an Airbnb for pop-ups, so a platform connecting the brand with the space. And I think my tip on this one is, you think you might know it, but the most important thing you can do is just get out there and start chatting to people and potential customers and validate that idea as soon as possible. So from day one, I went out to landlords, brands, marketing agencies, just getting feedback. And I suppose slightly, I call it future-proofing the truth, because you haven't built anything and they think you have a business, but you're really getting really valuable feedback from the beginning. And this example here, sorry, as I go through the slides, I've put up every picture is one of our bookings that we've done in the business. So this particular one was one of our very first bookings, and it was before we had any platform, and we had Peroni, who are an Italian beer, seeking a space to create an experience for their customers and to acquire new customers. And I connected, I'd already networked quite a bit, but I got a landlord of Grafton Street to open up the top floor of a car park, which was usually quite a quiet car park, to bring the brand in for the event, which was called House of Peroni. So that was our first sort of validation that actually we can be a connection and we can really bring value for the likes of a brand looking for a city centre location for an activity. And that was a huge success. So validation is key. I think what's really important, though, is to continue to pivot or to understand your proposition and change and adapt based on feedback. And as I said, we started as what we call a non-intelligent platform, which is connecting the brands with the spaces. But it became more and more evident with feedback from brands and agencies that they were seeking data. And the example I'm going to give you is when we had an inquiry from Nespresso from the States, and they were asking about competition and if they were to do a short-term Nespresso cafe, what sort of insights can we give them on audiences? So that was sort of another turning point, and with other brand feedback to go, we need to build something smarter than just a non-intelligent platform. I think what's really important is to know your competition. And when I set up Popertee, I sort of thought, no one else is doing this. This is brilliant. I'm a bit of a genius. But actually, in fact, there is a lot of competition. So we have two main competitors. One of them had, at that point, raised 10 million, called Appear Here, and the other competitor was called Storefront, who had also raised 10 million. One was USA-based, one was from London. And what was really important, and I think what's made us grow to where we are today, is to make sure that the team live and breathe competition and understand how you can develop a really unique proposition versus what's in the competitive landscape. Also for, I don't know, this might be questionable, but this is my perspective, is I think it is good to talk to your competition. And to give you an idea, Storefront, the first year, we were founded in spring 2016, and in Paddy's Day in 2016, there was a press release to say they'd gone bust. And I was like, sugar, this is not the industry. I'm not sure this is where we want to be. So it was really important that I reached out to the founder. They were backed by a company called Spark Capital, and it was to do with very aggressive milestones that they hadn't met. It wasn't to do with actually the industry. So it was great that the founder said, this is a growth industry, this is what we would have done different. So again, what I recommend is keep an eye on your competition, report on it monthly, make sure your team live and breathe it. What I've always been really good at is networking, and I, again, don't think we would be where we are today if it wasn't for networking. In the first 6 months or so, I went for so many coffees with different people, and I didn't go in with an agenda. It was literally just to catch up, tell people, and let it stew what your idea is and get feedback. And what goes around comes around, because a lot of those coffees and meetings come back either as potential bookings or come back as another contact or as a potential investor or someone else. So I can't stress enough how it is important to reach out. So not only just having your coffees, but LinkedIn is a brilliant tool. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone. One of my first reach outs and was meant to be a mentor, didn't happen because he had to move markets, but was the head of Airbnb in the UK. I reached out to him LinkedIn, had a call with him, and he said he'd be my mentor. So these type of things, all you can do, you have nothing to lose, just go for it. And actually that example there is, we did the Cuisine de France pop-up on Angel Street in Dublin. And again, that came through a connection, which was great. And also we work with a partner company that if a brand or an agency looks for fit out or staffing or additional services, we flick on a reference, or we put them in touch and we take a commission back. So on that particular one, our partner Event Fuel did all the fit out and the marketing to help it, and it was a great success. So really, really important is team. And I'm now living in London. The head office team, a few of the guys over there are based in Dublin. And from the offset, it's so important to get the right people on board. So it's really hard between London and Dublin. You're at early stage, you're still figuring it out. I think my advice is that be really clear on what your vision is as a business and make sure you translate that to not only your team, but potential hires as well, because you've got to have the same values. So as an example, I know I do like working hard, and it's important that the team want that. I know Popertee's vision is an exit strategy, so everybody on the team are clear that we're here to exit. And I think also you can start to get really good hires joining you if you are really clear, because they're either going to be really, really in or really, really out, and you want to be honest and have that conversation from the beginning. So we now have 10 people on the team across UK and Ireland. And there's a couple of people that have come from Paddy Power as well, which is great. And then a lot of the, one or two have come from internships coming through. And then through contacts, we've made some of our best hires as well. So I'm not the biggest fan of recruitment firms. I'm a big fan of using your network for recommendations. So, and I know one or two of the interns are here as well. We were born out of NDRC Launchpad, and I think because there's free space and they do an investment in you, in the beginning I was like, okay, let's get lots of interns. And I think at one point we had about 10 interns, and interns are absolutely brilliant. I think my learning from 2 years ago at that point was there were too many interns with not clear tasks. And it's all well and good that you think you've got, all this lower cost ability to do things, but it ended up being quite fragmented. And when I look back at what was delivered at that period versus what's been delivered now, it wasn't really the quality of work that we wanted, or nothing to do with the quality of the intern, but to do with actually myself or our team probably weren't giving them enough direction. But what's great is that interns can really learn from you, and if you can give them a really clear task and role, I think they're absolutely brilliant. I think that one, to give an example, some of our interns, I think Artris is here, we're still building out the technology, so if a brand wants to see a space in Dublin or London, one of the interns will go out and show it to them. So I think Artris might have showed this one to Phil on Marion Row. I think, I don't know whether it's maybe Irish culture or not, but I think a lot of people are afraid to make mistakes. I personally think it's okay to fail. I think my motto is always go big or go home. So when I wrote this down, I was like, what? We've made loads of mistakes. We haven't got it all right. But I think probably the biggest mistake Popertee or Lucinda has made along the way is around technology and some technology learnings and development. So I started off as sole founder. In hindsight, for anyone thinking of doing a startup, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence on this one, but I think it is really, really, really good to have a tech co-founder. That's just a given. Whether I'd go back and do it, I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But I think along the way, we developed technology. We started with an MVP out in India to show to the investors, which was fine. Then when we had a little bit more money, we started to outsource. And through an advisor, we were outsourcing in Argentina. So I didn't fully recommend that. If you can build in-house and keep it really lean and agile, that would be my recommendation. Yeah. So I think, again, what we're really, really lucky to have is advisors. And I use the word trusted here because what happens when you build a startup is that lots of people want to get involved if it's on the right trajectory. So what I would say is be really, really cautious. Even if someone has an amazing CV or comes from the industry and you're quite wowed, really, really just take a step back and get to know them. That's so important. Because I've had it once or twice where people look great and then you work with them and it doesn't fit in the culture, or they've not got the same vision, or they're at a different stage in their thought process versus what you're doing. I think with advisors, a couple of our great advisors have come through my Paddy Power network, and then the other advisors have come through. They're all sort of old bosses, so I'd known them very well. They knew me. They knew what I was good at, what I was bad at, and we have a really, really good working relationship. And our most recent advisor actually came through as a customer, and he liked what we were doing, and now he's very actively invested time-wise in the business, which is great. Investment. So we did our seed round last year of $500,000, so our investment was across Enterprise Ireland, NDRC, European Investment Fund, and Growing Capital. And I think my advice here is kind of twofold. You need to early enough understand who the investment community is in your market. So if we're talking about Ireland, you start to map out who those investors are. And so to start off with an Enterprise Ireland, on day one with Popertee, I was like, do we want to be an Enterprise Ireland company or not? And I'd heard sort of good and bad, but a good advisor said, absolutely. And that's the best advice that I can get, because Enterprise Ireland have been so supportive of Popertee. So to give you the Enterprise Ireland journey, we started on New Frontiers, where they give you €15,000. We moved on to Competitive Start Fund, where they give you 50,000, and then they match fund 250,000 to us as well. But not just the finance. What happens is you get a development advisor, and they are so supportive on potentially further grants, events, paying for stuff. They're really, really good. So we feel comfortable that anyone on the team can pick up the phone to Enterprise Ireland. And again, that piece is bring them on your journey, send them emails, keep them updated. With all our investors, we send a monthly update with KPIs, just let them know. And we have one slide, which is the good and the bad, because there's always 3 bad points every month. There has to be. I think that's really important. You're honest as well. And on the other, on Growing Capital, so Growing Capital had met us at our our demo day at NDRC, and they liked what we were doing. And this is what I spoke about earlier. We were quite basic without data. So again, because we had a good relationship, they gave advice on how we built out the data platform. And what happened was 12 months later, they invested, and they brought European Investment Fund on the journey as well. So we closed that $500,000, and I'm quite comfortable and confident to say, again, it's about relationships. It's not just about a great deck and a great business plan, but it's getting to know them and that they believe in what you're doing, that you're passionate about it, and that actually you can deliver on your KPIs. With prospective investors, so just so you know, we're going to be opening another investment round soon, probably leading out of London, but there's lots of investors coming to us all the time asking for decks. And again, our advisor would be like, don't share anything yet. So I think my advice, and maybe it's not for a very early stage, but is really be selective on the meetings you have and really carve out and understand who are those investors, one, that have money, because a lot of them are time wasting, and also two, who are the ones in your industry and who would you really want to work with, and talk to, even look at who they've invested in and reach out and go, are they good or not? Because these people have perspectives. So I'm live happening with this right now. So there is quite a lot of money in London, and I think it needs to be really important that we're confident that we know who we would like to be as our lead investor. Equity. This is a really interesting one, obviously. It's really, really important. And I've learned this along the journey to have a very clean cap table. So with potential investors, they can be put off by a messy cap table. So for anyone who doesn't know, and I'm learning this as I go, the cap table is the breakdown of your equity and who has it. And you will find, or we found, that there are advisors or people along the way that might ask for equity as part of what they're doing. I'd be really cautious with that until you get to know them. And I think you need to drive deliverables and milestones if you are giving away anything. If you are taking on or giving away equity as part of your business, I would get advice before you think it's a great thing or you think someone is great. And the advice I think I would get would probably be from a startup a little bit ahead of your journey. So because there are different perspectives on how cap tables should be broken down, but I think the ones that might know best are the ones that might be in your industry, we're a tech startup, and ones that have been through this and have their own war wounds along the way. And that went quite quickly. I'm on my last tip already, but I think the tips I gave there were all quite work related, and I think what's really the biggest tip I can give is about work-life balance, and I think that's really important. And it's very easy to get immersed and just fully live and breathe your startup as a founder, but I think what was game-changing for me was mindfulness. And I'll just give you a little bit of background on this. So my passion is horses and Connemara ponies. And it started about 5 years ago. My mum is over there, and I was riding one of her ponies, and it wasn't doing very well. And I'm really, really competitive, and I was really frustrated. And a friend had said, hypnotherapy. So I was like, okay, I'll just try it. So I went to this hypnotherapist on Baggot Street 2 or 3 times, and was purely to win the RDS. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And all I can say is the hypnotherapy was brilliant, and we started getting amazing results. So fast forward into Paddy Power world, I brought hypnotherapy. There's lots of apps that are really good for it. I brought that into Paddy Power, and it really worked on some stuff like confidence or presentations or pitches. Now in Popertee world, I do meditation apps every night because you can get really stressed. I do grind my teeth in my sleep a little as well. But I think it's really important that you keep your mind really strong. And this, for me, is a game changer because I'm able to get a really good work-life balance. So also, it's kind of obvious, and you all know this anyway, but exercise or yoga or all those kind of things, they're really helpful. So that's kind of my 10 tips. Just to finish off on our journey, we are between London and Dublin. We are a Telefonica company, so very kindly, Wyra had asked us to come here, and the organisers today. And we are about to sign another deal with Telefonica in the UK for some really great data. And what that data does, and it's all GDPR compliant, it tracks audiences by locations. So we can understand demographics or gender, age, and behavioural interests. And we combine it with other data sets so that brands who are seeking pop-ups, it's the fastest growth sector of budgets globally, marketing budgets, but they need data. So TV, radio, out of home, these all have data, but this industry doesn't. So that's why we're on a great trajectory, and we're really focused on building out the tech and data team. So in line with that, we're opening another investment round, and we're starting to do some really great paid pilots. So that's my journey, and that's my 10 tips. So I hope they were helpful. So thank you.